He is back. Yeah, him. He has been traumatized and hurt for months and now he is back. But why was he traumatized? Well, you know the answer. Yeah, you know. Yeah, you know it. Yeah, you know it. Well, in case you don't know, here's a recap.
된 곳이 있었습니다. 그러면
하나는 왼편에, 하나는 사석통 바로 옆에.
他落完子再找我呀？怎么能用他的时间封盘呢？
아, 정말
你这个直播招人怎么
이런
服
경우는
气啊？
상황이네.
第一盘我是忍的，该对手落子，他落完子再说这个事儿啊。
Long story short, Ke Jie lost the Samsung Cup a few months ago because of some stupid rules. Probably you've already heard of that, and I feel bad for him, and I feel like any rules that's not related to Go at all should just not be there. So I hope the Korean Go Association is going to do some modification about the current system. Let's jump straight into today's game though. This is the first game Ke Jie played since he's back, and his first opponent is Li Xuanhao, who is absolutely a monster. He has become an AI recently, and he is just a beast right now. This game is played in one of the Chinese league games. Ke Jie is playing as black. He opens up with double 3-4 with a 2-space high jump protection to the corner. White approaches, black responds locally, and now white plays the big knight. And immediately Ke Jie plays a modern Joseki that I talked about just a week ago, which is really nice. We can see how the top two professionals play out this Joseki. White harness on top, and this is even more exciting because that's the more complicated variation. Black has to Hani into the corner. By the way, if you guys want to know more about this Joseki, it's one of my recent videos, the full guide on the 3-4, one of those names. It's a very recent Joseki since I came back to make video this year. Black Ataris, this is all theory, okay? So white Ataris, black extends, and everybody's just doing the theory stuff. White Hanes and black Ataris. White captures, black double Hanes, white Ataris and connect. Everything are just book moves at this point. And now because of this stone right here, black is able to help the ladder. So this works for black. In that video, what I said was that this is a slightly better position for black locally. So why is a top professional like Li Xuanhao playing it? Well, that's because today we learned something new, is that with this variation, if white has a very nice ladder breaker, then this is playable for white as well. And you see the ladder breaker coming in. So Li Xuanhao has done extremely insane amount of theory in terms of Fuseki. And he's definitely one of the hardest working players in the Go field. So usually we would think about like attaching on top. The issue with attaching on top is black can extend, and this still doesn't break the ladder. And then there's no good follow-up, which is why in the actual game, Li Xuanhao has studied this whole sequence, and then he knows that we can attach here to gain advantage over here, to compensate for the loss that white has over here. So the next move is very nice. And this is just an AI era move, right? These days, when we try to fix the ladder, we're no longer, back in the old days, we just capture and we're solid and there's no worries. That's the old theory. But now it's all about efficiency and speed, which is why Ke Jie played out this very fancy move. It has a control over the entire center, over the entire board while fixing the ladder. It's a very greedy, in air quote, but also very efficient move. So the AI actually suggests to play one. So Ke Jie played over here, but AI actually suggests Ke Jie to play over here. The theory being that, well, this is a little bit ridiculous, but the theory being that let's say eventually, because black has to respond here, but eventually when black approaches, this forms a very nice protection line. It's harder for white to come into this direction, while what Ke Jie chose in the actual game, when you approach, there's still like a very nice leaking point for white. But anyway, the show is going on top, so no one has time to deal with the stuff over here. White Hanes, black plays the Hane on the bottom. This is slightly questionable. This would be a good move for us, but for top professional level players, this is slightly questionable. The correct move is probably for black just to extend. White extends, black cuts, white extend, and now they have a windmill shape going on, and this is just an interesting fight. White goes into the corner, black also slides out, and this is very complicated and an equal position. In the actual game, what Ke Jie played is a little softer, and this is probably why he's going to be slightly behind out of this opening. So white extends, black crawls, white Ataris, black connects, and white extends once again. And black cannot let white really turn here, so he has to keep going. White extends, and black crawls again, because letting white turn here is always a big move. So for example, if black plays somewhere else, white will turn here. This strengthens the bottom side for white, but also there's a slight problem. Like essentially there's something going on here. So if black just captures this way, white can Atari and then capture the 4 stones. Of course, this would be very bad for black. So black has a little bit of a liberty concerns as well. Therefore, that's why you see these bizarre crawling on the 3rd line. Okay, so now white doesn't want to extend once again because that would be a little too slow. Therefore, he goes ahead and builds a moyo on top. Black now Ataris. This is a very big move that encloses the center. And white now comes in to try to threaten the ladder. Black has to respond to this with a small knight. Now this regains the control over the ladder. And now white attaches into black's corner. This is a very common sequence. Even without the stone over here, white can still play this move. If you're interested, I have a video called The Drunken Master. It's one of the trick videos. But with this stone, this move works even better. So against this move, black Hanes on top, white extends. This is a very simple and common sequence. When white plays the tiger's mouth, black has to Atari, making sure that white doesn't get the Hane at the 1-2. And now white jumps out. So instead of connecting, which is really slow, white decides to work on the big picture. And his big picture is really the territory over here. Now we can see that white is definitely leading a little bit in this game because the structure over here, this wall collaborating with the 2 stones over here, forming very nice 6-line territories. And that's just very beautiful for white. Next up, we have black trying to create some chaos over the corner. White attaches on top. This connects nicely with the previous stone over here. And now black decides to tanuki because he doesn't see a good follow-up. He decides to take a big point over here. White plays tiger's mouth. Black captures. White captures back. And now black extends. The reason for black to extend is actually to... What he's hoping for is for white to block, which is actually what happened. And now black plays a Tsuji. But at this point, what black's hoping for is, of course, for white to follow the normal sequence where this is something I also talked about, where white has a very nice move to capture black because you cannot throw in here, so you have to extend. And now white is just on time to capture the 5 stones over here. So black, what black wanted is just basically to get this stone in Sente, and that will help out the fight over here. This sounds a little ridiculous. I mean, how does this stone help out the fight over here? But for professionals like Ke Jie, it does. So that's what black was hoping for. And I would say he's not hoping for a lot. But in the actual game, Li Shunhao decided to not give what Ke Jie was hoping for. And he runs out. This looks like a very crazy move because the ladder doesn't work for white. So of course Ke Jie just happily Ataris, and then these 2 stones are dead. But then white plays the Atari on the 2nd line, forcing black to capture, and then he connects on the 1st line. So at this point, you might be wondering, well, this is so badly played by white because all these stones are on the first line and the second line, and then Ke Jie got a really thick wall over here. But apparently, this turns out to be what AI would have played as well. So white played perfectly with the sequence, and the commentator at the time was saying that this is just insane, right? The fact that white either memorized the sequence all the way to here, or he found this like ridiculous sequence by himself. So the reason this is really nice for white is, first of all, white is able to gain some territory, as you can see that these two moves would help the corner liberty fight, and also in terms of territory, black lost some points on the side. What black gained was a very thick group over here, but then we can see white's exchange over here versus black exchange over here all of a sudden looks so clever for white, because this move has a lot of say about the fight over here, but black's move over here just over concentrates with his influence over here. So all these moves look not very efficient for black. So this is actually just the best sequence that the white can play, and AI would have played the same thing, which is pretty insane. Okay, so now black decides to, after losing so much territory, decides to take some territory back. White plays the tiger's mouth, controls the third line stone, white hanes, black hanes, white double hanes. Now, here black cannot make the mistake of just playing the capture, because this would be falling into a trap for black, because this Panuki is facing another very strong black group. This is called over concentration, while the corner is dead. So white is just ahead in territory. So black cannot allow that to happen. Therefore, in the actual game, black plays a Tsuji, that is to squeeze over here, forming a double Atari. Now, if white connects on top, this would not work well, because black can now play out a sequence, and white has no way to save the stone on the second line unless he wants a very tough co-fight at this point. That is to go for this sequence. So this is a very common sequence. I'm pretty sure a lot of you know already. So if black captures over here, white can play out this one. This is a ko. And of course, if black extends, we can play the Atari on the first line. This is also a ko. So very common shape for those people who don't know. It's good to know that there's this very nice sequence to play a ko in the corner. So whenever you're behind, you can try it out. Okay, so but not right now, right? Right now, this ko is very difficult for white. So in the actual game, Li Xuanhao decided to play a double tiger's mouth. It's a very solid move. Black Ataris, white connects, and black now extends. And look at how much territory black was able to rob from white. But amazingly, this is still a leading game for white, because white gets the momentum to enclose on top. And now black has to figure out, do I invade or not invade, or what do I do? Well, black decided to invade. So this would be a nice video for my invasion series that has ended. So I'm not planning to revive it, but I really want to go through this invasion with you, because I know a lot of people who are watching my channel love that series. But today is a perfect example to show what we have learned in that series. Okay, so black goes for this invasion point. So you can pause a little bit and just think about why Ke Jie decides to play this invasion point. So the reason he decided to play is because he's aiming at this cut over here. So this follows with our principle of counterattack. Whenever we're trying to live, we first have to look at our opponent's weakness. And I have mentioned this like a gazillion times. So Ke Jie is doing exactly that, right? He's the 9P professional world champion, but hey, he follows the theory. He follows the principle. White now attaches into the corner. This is preventing the cutting point. Very nice move. Black has to push once, and now he plays another move. Look at what this is following. The principle is following. There's a attach to get out. There's a jump on the second line to form a base. So this is a move that gives you as many options as possible. White seals that option. Black jumps down to form a base. And this is also giving black's option to attach and even extend his ice base. White kosumis, black hops out, once again forming a very nice ice base and planning to push out. Now white has to prevent this attach and squeeze black's ice base. Now, if you're not careful here and you just connect, white will just push on top and black is pretty much dead. So black has to be very careful about the life and death over here, actually, because it looks very dangerous. And it is actually very dangerous. Black pushes, white extend. Black now blocks on the second line. That's correct, to protect the ice space. White caps black on top. So white is very patient. He's a very patient player. He's making these kosumis. Very solid move. Very nice move that gives him some territory. And he's just very patient. Black Hanes. Now white connects. This is a sente. There's a cutting point over here. Black has to fix. And now white Hanes on top, completely enclosing black. Now black has to live. And now once again, black has to play careful. And that's the correct move. So if you play here, there's going to be a huge problem. That just means you haven't done enough life and death problems, because white can push here. And then there's an attach. And it's not easy for black to live. It's locally, there's not enough ice space. Okay, so in the actual game, Ke Jie played correctly because his life death is rock solid. White pushes, blocks, and now black extends. White plays the peep. Black has to protect the cutting point. White caps black. And black plays the honey here. So this is looking at a cutting point. White is not alive. But white is just very peaceful. He just connects. And this just connects everything. And there's a snapback over here, obviously. And at this point, black extends to live the group. White squeeze the ice space. Black also squeeze here. So this would make sure that the black dragon is alive. So at this point, Ke Jie managed to live on the site. It looks like a very successful invasion. He has followed all the principles. We can give him like 100% on this invasion. He's done everything correctly, but he's just still behind. This shows you how strong Li Xuanhao is as a player. He controls the game. It seems like Ke Jie got everything that he wants. But what happens is that it looks like on the surface that black has a lot of territory. If you like the corner, there's a lot of points over here. There's some points over here. This group also has points. But guess what? White has some territory here. So white might be a little bit behind in terms of territory. The problem is, hey, look at white over here. There's some hidden points over here. There's a lot of hidden points along this wall. And white can very intelligently use this wall to build more to build more territory or to attack black. So the amount of savings that white has is just hard for black to deal with. Now let's look at how Li Xuanhao converts his savings into cash. So first of all, white starts with this honey, capturing black stone over here. All of a sudden, we see there's just like 10 more points, 15 more points around here. And that's just a little scary for black already. Black plays the tiger's mouth, white double honeys, and black extends. Here's a very simple thing to talk to my audience, because I feel like a lot of times the players I see online would just play these loose moves. This is obviously a fine and safe move, but what we're trying to accomplish in Go is efficiency. So whenever we can push for more, it's always something that you want to do. Okay, so instead of extending out, which will be a mistake, white absolutely has to look for more, because white is so thick over here. There's no reason to not play the double honey. Okay, that's not an overplay. That's just the correct play. Black extends and white plays this move. So this is a very efficient move. So even if white is ahead, he's not loosening up. This move accomplished two things. First, it's threatening to cut black, but also when black plays out, let's say this variation, white can run out because there's a ladder breaker over here. So white is really accomplishing two things. And that's what you often see from the top professionals, is that their moves are just way more efficient. Now look at black's move. Ke Jie decides to counterattack white and form a ladder going on here. White now has to, so if white pushes and fix the problem, black can cap white, and this is a little dangerous for white. This stone is probably just dead. So white cannot let that happen. In the actual game, white plays the Kosumi, looking at a cutting point from black. Black now plays out his dream moves and then ladder the stone over here. And now white plays the flip Atari. So instead of push and cut here, Li Xuanhao just decides to play a very patient move. And this is so patient, and I personally think it's a little bit too patient. I would have definitely cut black off if this is my game. But as you can see, the strength of Li Xuanhao is that his judgment is so correct about the board position. Even if he plays this move, which is huge, he is still very ahead in this game right now because just because how well he's judging the board. Even if black escapes this stone, these hidden points are not going away. There's still a lot of hidden points that white has, and this is just very difficult for black to deal with. Black now plays the one space jump. This is of course very big move because it's indirectly helping the black. So if white now cuts black off, black can run from this direction. So that's a very nice move. In the actual game, white decides to cut, and then using some of the Aji that black has, black connects on the outside, and then white Ataris. And you can see Li Xuanhao's style. Once he has a lead, he doesn't even go for this kind of risky sequence that I just talked about for this corner. When you have this shape, you can make a ko, this kind of ko. So this would be also a good option for white, actually, because white does have a lot of ko threats outside, and then black doesn't have that many. But this is slightly risky because it also makes this group weaker because black was able to connect over here. So Li Xuanhao plays absolute safety by just capturing black over here, and he actually gets a gote because there's not a sente against the corner. But even this, it just feels impossible for Ke Jie to catch up. He's still behind. All these hidden points, these incremental territory, it's just, black is just behind. Now black desperately trying to enclose as much territory as he can. White now plays the Hane here. It looks a little weird. You might be wondering, well, why can't black just push and take? Is that a blunder from white? Well, not really, because now if you go for this capture, white now is going to come in. And this is very difficult for black. So if black's best response is probably connect, but then we can extend down. This is threatening to come back. So even if you get this Atari, it doesn't matter. I still have a cut here. So if you fix on top, now I can just play out this one. And then black is dead, right? So if you play this, I can throw in. Black only has one eye. So even if you capture a lot of points here, the dragon is dead. So this just means that white's tiger's mouth is an absolute sente, and black cannot ignore that sente. So in the actual game, black just connects the stone back. Now white plays the tiger's mouth, black Ataris, and then goes back to live. And that's the correct way of playing for black. Now white follows up by threatening the stone in the center, also threatening a little bit the ladder, although temporarily it's not working. Black now goes for the all-in. So black knows he's behind. He's one of the top players. He must know he's behind. And then he goes for the capture over here. So here, if Li Xuanhao wanted to play safe, he could play this one. But it's just a little humiliating because, there's a throw-in, then black connects, and white has to connect back. And then it's all on the first line. But even like this, white is ahead. In the actual game, white decides to go for the fight because he wants the fight at this moment. Now, black Ataris, white Ataris on top. Black captures. There's a loco, very nice co-threat that doesn't lose any points. Forcing black to connect. White takes back. And at this point, Ke Jie runs out of co-threats. If you look at the board, it's not really a co-threat going on. There's no co-threat in the corner because white still has this stone in his mouth. And this group's rock solid. This is absolutely no co-threat here. This is snap back. This is just iron, so there's nothing going on here. So at this point, it's the first time I see Ke Jie in my life having to play this throw-in move. And this is just sad to see because white is going to... So white's next move captures black. This gains 2 points. Ke Jie throws 1 point in, so that's already 3 points lost, plus a bunch of influence lost, plus this Kosumi is less threatening for white. So this co-threat is it's tough to watch. I have interviewed some people after the game about this co-threat. Here are their reactions. So despite the tough emotions that you might be going through with the co-threat, the show must go on. Ke Jie now takes back, hoping to capture the entire group. It's now White's time to find a co-threat. He decides to push, and there's absolutely no way for Ke Jie to respond to it. Therefore, he connects. He gained more than 20 points, a little bit more than 20 points over here. But White pushes down. This is about 18 points, 18 to 19 points in this corner, plus the 5+ points he lost over here. Ends up to be a small loss for Ke Jie. It seems to be a small loss, but let's see. Now, because White pushes down, Black's group over here is not feeling safe anymore. So Black has to squeeze. Now White prevents the first line connection. But now all of a sudden, Black realizes that there is a life and death problem over here. So he decides to play the tiger's mouth. So this move in itself doesn't have a lot of points, and that's the price he's paying for the loss of thickness over here. So this trade against here and here turns out to be a big losing trade for Ke Jie, actually. So the game becomes even tougher at this point. And I don't even feel like this is Ke Jie's fault. It's just Li Shuanhao is way too strong. It feels like Ke Jie's been playing like against an AI this whole time. Very tough to play. Okay, let's keep going. Li Shuanhao now plays a very beautiful small knight move, trying to capture Ke Jie's center. Now Ke Jie comes back, Atari, that's a sente, and Ke Jie plays a weird tiger's mouth. You might be wondering, what is Ke Jie doing here? Is this move just looking so hopeless? You have a stone here is about to be captured. Why would you play here? Actually, this is a good move because if you don't play, okay, let's say if you try to save it in some kind of way, it doesn't really save it. White is going to honey here, and this is just annoying. Okay, if you play here, so first of all, White can exchange this actually, and then place the tiger's mouth, the honey. If Black plays the tiger's mouth, then there's a peep over here, and that's just so rough because Black has to connect. If you block, White's going to Atari and then turn here, and then this is dead, and that's the game over. So this is very hard to respond. So I don't even know how to respond to this personally. I mean, probably still the tiger's mouth, but after this, that's way too much territory loss. And this group still has to spend a move to, I mean, I don't even know if one move connects. There's another cutting point here. There's some connection problems over here. Black is just a mess right now. So this move is actually very threatening for Black. If you play like this, then White's going to just enclose you. There's still a peep over here. So Black has to spend more moves to try to live the site. But then, let's say, for example, if you play something, and then that's probably game over, right? Like, this guy is also dead. And this is all White's territory. So I don't feel like continuing playing. I don't think Ke Jie would feel like continuing playing at this point. So, in the actual game, instead of playing that, Ke Jie played the tiger's mouth. Let's see how the game is going. White plays an endgame sequence. That's just White's rights. And now Li Shuanhao plays a very solid move. That is just to live the corner. Very clear, very solid. Just like an AI. It's so hard for Ke Jie at this point. Ke Jie extends because still there's a honey that's very big. So Black has to extend. The reason it's big is because when White honeys, there's still life and death issues in the corner. So Black extends, making sure his side is fine. And now Li Shuanhao, look at these moves. It's just impeccable, perfect. Nothing you can do against it, right? There's clearly a push on top. There's a connection over here. Just not much Black can do. Black goes back. Li Shuanhao pushes. Black just has to block. And now a very beautiful move. Not only connects the two stones, but also making sure that Black is dead over here. So at this point, Ke Jie plays a Kosumi, making sure at least this guy cannot run out. And now they played a couple exchanges in the corner. And the reason is just because Ke Jie wants to get this in sente. Well, that's just Black's right. This has some territory, but it's not very relevant. Okay, so Black attaches in the center, and then Hanes is just not doing much. White Ataris and push. Some very irrelevant exchanges. And Black Ataris, White connects. Black now blocks. If not, there's a monkey jump, and everybody knows the monkey's jump. So Black has to block. It's a very huge endgame. White turns, Black connects. White plays the peep. Black doesn't even respond to it. This cutting point, black can just turn here and it's not a big problem. Black attaches, white extend, and now black attaches and trying desperately just to capture 2 stones. So if Ke Jie can actually capture these 2 stones, there's a chance to turn this game around. So can Ke Jie actually do it? He's been suffering this entire game. This is his final chance to trying to capture Li Shenhao here. This is all about calculation. So maybe Ke Jie has a chance. Li Shenhao desperately trying to get the 2 stones out. Ke Jie hanes, Li Shenhao counter hane. And now Ke Jie double hanes. A very aggressive move, trying to desperately just to capture the 4 stones over here. After the Atari and a connect, Li Shenhao decides to play a tiger's mouth. And of course, we know the next move. That is for Ke Jie to absolutely stop the connection. White cannot now worry about just immediate connect, because then allows black to connect the stone back. That's a huge loss of territory. Therefore, Li Shenhao has to protect the territory. The good thing about this move is that he can capture black from behind. Therefore, Ke Jie decides to bump into into white, and now Li Shenhao plays a Atari. This is an absolute sente. Ke Jie has to respond to it, and now Li Shenhao comes back and fixes the weakness. It looks like Li Shenhao's left with no weaknesses, but what can Ke Jie do is to try to threaten the weaknesses that white has over here. If white just takes, there's a very painful Atari for black over here. Therefore, Li Shenhao decides not go for it. Instead, he plays a very big move, threatening to get this stone out. Ke Jie obviously wants chaos. What he wants is chaos. You want chaos when you're behind. So he takes the ko, and now there's a fight going on. This is very exciting. So therefore, Li Shenhao decides to take the stone out. So this is tooth for a tooth. At this point, Ke Jie connects. Wow, looks like Ke Jie's gained a lot of territory. But then at this point, Li Shenhao pushes into black's weaknesses. And at this point, Ke Jie decides to resign. So the reason Ke Jie resigned is because he read out a lot of moves after that. But let's show my audience what he read out. So the reason this is not a good trade for black, actually, even if black gained a lot of territory over here, but black's is broken into pieces over here. So this is a sente, obviously, because if white Ataris, this group will revive and that's game over. Therefore, black has to connect that first. Now white can push and cut, and this is very nasty for black. So black cannot just Atari here because white can Atari, right? So at this point, what black can do is to first save the 2 stones over here. This is an Atari, therefore white has to connect. This Atari or not doesn't really matter. So at this point, black has to go back and fix the very serious weakness over here. But then Li Shenhao now can cut black, capture these 2 stones, and this is a sente because black's group over here only has 2 liberties. He has to go back and capture white. And at this point, white can Atari, forcing black to take. And now magically, white can just connect on the first line. And this is just reviving a lot of the territory that Ke Jie has captured. Of course, Ke Jie at this point can play out the Atari here, forcing white to connect. And there's a throw into Suji. But even like this, so even if black is able to capture the stones over here, black gained a lot of territory over here. That's very true. But the problem is white got a lot of compensation by capturing 2 stones over here. The 2 stones over here, a lot of squeeze over here. And also squeeze black territory over here. And therefore, this is not a good trade for black at this point. And then black is just very behind. He's not even ahead on board. So it's not possible for him to afford the komi. At this point, it's a reasonable time for him to resign. I hope you guys liked the video and enjoyed today's content. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to my channel if you want to support my work and see more videos, exclusive content. You can check out my Patreon page. The link is down in the description. Thank you very much. I will see you guys next time.